Come on, there now.
Okay. Good morning, folks. It's Wednesday, the 17th of March, the Senate Agricultural Committee. And we're going to be hearing from House members in regards to 5 bills that they have sent over to us here in the last week or so. And so it's good to see you House members that are with us. It's you know, we work quite closely with you folks, and especially I talk a lot with your chair in regards to planning and all of that. But we have one new House member that's with us, Henry Pearl, that will from, is it Danville or Peachum?
Yeah.
Danville.
Yeah.
So welcome, Henry, and I guess you're leading off with H88, certification of ag use for purposes and use value appraisal. And so would you like to just give us a little overview on that particular bill? I don't know, Henry, we ought to introduce ourselves because I don't think we've all met yet. And I'm Bobby Starr, and I chair the Senate committee, and I'm from Orleans, Essex County.
I am Chris Pearson from Chittenden County.
Hey, I'm Anthony Polina, Washington County.
Ryan Collmore, Rutland County.
And I'm Corey Parent. I'm from Pearson County.
So welcome, Henry, and if you could just give us an overview of H88, that would be appreciated. And we'll, you know, if we have questions after, we'll certainly ask you once you get through the bill.
Okay, thank you guys. Nice to meet you all virtually. Yeah, for the record, Representative Henry Pearl, Caledonia, Washington District. I don't know how you guys do it up here in the Senate, but we're fairly informal down in the House, and I'm that way. So I don't, if that's all right with you guys, I'll just kind of run through my thoughts on this bill, and it's a pretty simple one. So
yeah, well, we're pretty formal and like to be addressed by our, you know, Senator so and so, and no, we're very informal, Henry, or try to be at least. And
okay. All right. So yeah, H88. It's, as you said, certification of agriculture use for purposes of the use value appraisal system. Basically, the one thing that we did, it was introduced to try to clean up current use, basically the application process that happens every November 1st. I don't know if you guys, how familiar you guys are with current use, probably pretty familiar, but every year, yeah. If you're an ag, the ag section of current use, you got to basically reapply every year by November 1st and say that you're still abiding by the rules, still doing the things. And if you miss that deadline, you get booted out, and it's an automatic process in statute. So if you miss that deadline for any reason, it starts a process. The tax department starts a process that says, okay, you're out. We got to notify the town, the listers. They got to go through the process of figuring out the difference in value for that land, and the penalty that's going to be given to you for that land being taken out of current use. And then the farmer or landowner has to go through, if they just missed the deadline or for some reason didn't get their paperwork in because they didn't know about it, then they got to start the appeals process. So it's quite a process. And we heard from from Jill Remick from the tax department, and one of her, big things was just kind of the inefficiency of that process and how it puts a burden on everybody when that happens. So one of the things in the original bill was to basically almost give a grace period or give means of the commissioner or the tax department essentially to reach out to people that had for some reason missed that deadline and give them an opportunity to say, oh yeah, whoops, I missed it. Let's figure this out. And if they can prove that they're still in it, then they don't have to start that whole process, get listers involved, get the appeals process going. And that's the one piece that we left in. It was a strike all amendment. There was a couple other things that were originally in there. One was the to make it so every 3 years you applied instead of every one. We felt like that was almost more complicating than anything. That maybe if it was every 3 years, then more people would forget because it wasn't something that gets done every year. So we nixed that. And then the second one was to conduct a study to figure out how to make it better online, essentially. And that process is already happening. There's already an online portal, and we heard from the tax department, they're in the process of trying to make that better. And so we felt like that wasn't needed in this. So anyways, we kept the third one and felt like it was a really fair thing. There's about 8,000 ag only parcels in the state that have to apply every year. And I think it's as much as 200 generally don't get that paperwork in. And I think the state had to do 90 appeal processes last year. And I mean, it's not at all intended to be get out of jail free card or a way to get around it. Like there's still going to be regulation and still going to be enforcement but say, I think the example I gave when I presented the bill was, if there's a death in the family or something like that happens and you don't get your paperwork in, now the tax department would have the ability to reach out, say, hey, you guys missed the deadline. And chances are the person's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, we had something going on, I missed it. Yes, we're still in current use. And they can look into it and say, okay, well, you need to get your paperwork in, but here's this essentially grace period, and it saves a lot of headaches. So that's the bill in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
Yeah, how many, Henry, I'll get you, Brian, how many did you say have to go through the process that don't get their paperwork in? Was it 200?
About on average, there's about 200 people every year that for some reason don't meet that deadline. Some of those people are actually people that are no longer in current use and it got and they need to be taken out. But about 90 last year, Jill said, about 90 of them were people that actually still should be in the program, and they went through the whole process and they didn't need to do that essentially. But yeah, roughly about 200 every year don't get their paperwork in, and then it's just a burden on the state at that point.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Henry, did anybody come in to testify in opposition of this bill? And my other question is, what was the committee vote? And was it, I'm assuming a voice vote on the floor, so you probably don't know what that vote was, but was there any opposition?
There was not any opposition. We didn't have anybody that testified that was against it that I can recall. And the committee vote was 8-0-0. And we got some questions on the floor, but it was, I can't remember if it was we just switched back to voice vote. And I can't remember if this was prior to that, but anyways, I'm pretty sure it was unanimous. Anyways, we really didn't get any pushback at all. And so, like I said, it was pretty simple. But.
Thank you.
Isn't, Chris, go ahead and I'll ask my question.
Henry, did the bill have to go to Ways and Means? Do you know?
It did. Yep. And they signed off on it. No problem. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
The question I was going to ask Henry is, we always, years back, people that were in current use, the only time they had to fool with this stuff notifying the tax department was if they extracted land from the program or if they sold that land to another landowner, whoever it might be. And so I'm wondering, did you guys talk at all about switching it that way instead of leaving it like it is and trying to fix the present system?
No offense, Henry, but I have to leave. I'll be
Yeah,
back.
thank you.
Yeah, have fun, Anthony.
Yeah, you bet.
He's going for his punishment for the day.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. I think the worry was, I mean, as somebody that's in current use myself, that appeals to me. I think the worry was, that it might be abused if people, if it wasn't checked, regularly. If you didn't have to go through this process, then maybe it would be that some people would stay in current use that didn't actually deserve to be there. And so I certainly see the argument there, and I think I may have actually brought it up, but we didn't discuss it too much at length, just because I think we felt like with this bill, maybe this would help with the one part that's not that great. And if we get this online portal a little more efficient, I mean, there are some people that may not always use that, but that's going to make it much simpler. Hopefully, people can basically just click and say they're there, but it's that signed. I mean, this is essentially a signed affidavit that says that you're still using it. So it's kind of a legally binding thing you do every year. So if you didn't have that, we were afraid that there might be abuse of the system, I guess. But
well, that is how it got changed. I'd say maybe 8 or 10 years ago, over on your side. It was after I left the house, because there'd have been a freaking war over there if I'd have still been there, and it wouldn't have happened, I would have hoped. Finance committee had some real sharp people. They went to school too long, and they had it all figured out that there was all these people that were cheating and taking land out, and they were still in current use, and they rammed this through, and Carolyn missed it somehow, and it got over to us. And I think back then I was chairing education or something, and it never even came back because it went to our finance committee. And but it's an awful waste of time if you look at the acreage where there was some slippage. I mean, it didn't add up to it, to anything. We're spending more money correcting, and then we get people that are kicked out or asked to leave, and our phones ring because they find out, 6 months later that they're out of the program and they can't pay their tax bill. And I mean, that was an awful bad change. And as far as signing the affidavit, well, you did that before, and
Right.
and it was illegal if you sold your property, and that was not reported. I mean, what good would it do you anyways, because you aren't paying the tax on that property any longer anyhow. So there's certainly some room for improvement on that change.
Yeah.
Chris?
Well, Linda reminds us we have a bunch of bills to get through, and you've already got 5 votes on this one, I think. So just want to keep in mind the clock ticks here.
Yeah, but haven't we got until 11:30 or something?
Her note says 10:15.
Oh. Well, did you have any other questions for us, Henry?
No, I don't think so. If you guys are good, feel free to reach out at any time if you have any other questions on it. But thank you for
Yeah.
letting me talk about it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So we got 218 up next. Heather, are you with us? Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Senator.
And we can quickly introduce ourselves so you'll know who you're talking to.
Great.
No, we haven't met. I'm Bobby Starr and I chair the committee.
Hi, I'm Chris Pearson from Chittenden County.
Brian Collmore from Rutland County.
And I'm Corey Parent. I'm from Franklin County.
And I'm not. And I'm from
Well-
Barnard.
Where are you from?
Barnard.
Yeah. And Anthony Polina, Senator Polina is also a member, but he had to go to a different committee to report on a bill. Welcome. And I don't know how you picked and got picked the winner of reporting 218, but
I volunteer.
I guess you got it passed in the House. But what we've worked on selling raw milk and unpasteurized milk for years off and on. So why don't you give us your take on the 218 bill?
Sure. So H218 seeks to expand the sale of raw milk for Tier 2 producers only to other farms, farm stands, and community-supported agriculture operations. The two central definitions that were added into the existing statute are CSA and farm stand. And the reality is, and I think you all know, that raw milk sales are strictly regulated. And since it was established in statute in 2009, Vermont has reduced our instances of illness to nearly zero. And that can be attributed to the increased customer education, the strict bacterial testing standards that are already in statute, and the highly regulated milking procedures. By allowing Tier 2 producers to expand, they can remain economically viable and offset the costs that come along with stringent regulations required for Tier 2. Many farmers experienced a significant uptick in sales during the pandemic, and this would open up the market just slightly to meet those demands. We worked with the agency and the Department of Health to establish chain of custody guidelines that would ensure for the swift and immediate obtaining of records in the event of illness. All requirements that are currently law remain. However, we strengthened existing regulations around rabies vaccinations and testing of tuberculosis and brucellosis. It now clearly states in the statute that they must be administered by a licensed veterinarian as per request of the agency. Existing in the current statute are all the testing requirements for Tier 2 producers who must keep all records for a year. On the matter of liability, both the seller and the producer would be liable to the same extent, and if for any reason one party is unable to pay, the other must. All farm stands and CSAs must equally be able to prove their ability to keep milk at or below 40 degrees. They must display the same warning sign as the producer that is currently in statute, and they must submit all records of purchase within a week to the producer for the agency. We gave the agency ultimate authority to inspect any farm stand or CSA to make sure they are complying with all the additional regulations. And the fact is, consumers are aware of the risks and farmers know how to mitigate those risks. They want to produce a healthy and safe product for their communities, and this bill is a step forward for equitable accessibility. And I am happy to take any and all questions that I know will come.
Yeah, well, thanks. Good report. The Department of Health, I'm sure you must have had them in. And what was their response to opening this up to farm stands That's farm stands on the premises of the farm, I would take it. Is that
Not, not on the premises of the farm that principally produced the milk, farm stands that are on another farm.
Oh. And TSAs, people come and pick their product up at the farm or at a central location?
At the farm.
Yeah. So what did the Department of Health have to say in regards to 218?
So much. They were concerned primarily about the chain of custody and how we would be able to trace who was purchasing the milk and where it was going, because previously it was only allowed for off-farm sales on the farm that principally produced it or at farmers markets. And that's directly to the consumer. And so they're concerned about that third party and how we would be able to track that. So we worked with them specifically to ensure that the chain of custody would be very clear. And what that means is the farm stand and the CSAs themselves have to keep a record of all contact information of who purchased milk and how much. And within a week, they have to send that information back to the producer, who then has to submit that to the agency.
So the purchaser has to do a tracking of who drinks the milk?
The folks who are selling it, so the CSA owners and the farm stand owners, have to have a log with everyone's contact information of who is purchasing the milk and how much they are purchasing. So nobody can purchase it without it being unknown. And equally, they have to post the required warning signs that is also on the bottle.
Yeah, and Chris?
Heather, thanks for bringing this forward. I heard from a farm in Heinsberg, I think it was, that an example, and I want to make sure this is what you all are covering. They make raw milk. They can sell it to folks through the current scene, but there is a let me try to remember. There's a CSA down the road that also is co-located with a bakery. So people stop, pick up some fresh bread, pick up their CSA vegetables, and off they go. And this farmer was hoping we could allow her to basically have her current operation located off the farm, but at this other operation that is, after all, doing the similar kind of thing. So is that covered here? Is that, it sounds to me like that would be allowed, but I'm curious if you could just help me make sure I'm hearing this right.
Let me make sure I'm hearing you right too. Are you saying that the farmer who produced the milk wants to be physically present selling at the CSA, or they just want to sell their product to the CSA?
No, they want their people to be able to pick it up at this other location.
That would be
I don't know. I don't think they're looking to vend there. It's just basically a lot of her customers overlap with this vegetable CSA. And rather than make them stop at two places, she'd like to be able to have the same people, same rigorous, cataloging of who they are, but just pick it up offsite.
Exactly. They would be allowed to do that as long as that CSA posted the required warning signs and was able to prove to the agency that they can maintain that milk at 40 degrees or below. And the agency would have the authority to inspect that CSA at any time to make sure that they are following all standards.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions for Heather? Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heather, I might have missed it, but who did you have in from the Department of Health? Did you say?
I didn't know, but I can tell you who we had in. We usually don't do names when we testify, but we had E.B. Flory, who is the dairy specialist for the agency.
Oh, bang.
Yes, and then let me pull up our Department of Health person. I deleted the name, so I just got to grab it from my email from Linda.
Was the agency of ag supportive of what you folks did, Heather?
Ultimately, at the end, yes. Once we gave them authority to inspect any of the CSAs or farm stand operations, and once we clarified the chain of custody, and once we equally put in the statute that it was required that the rabies and tuberculosis and brucellosis vaccines were administered by a registered veterinarian, they felt much more comfortable about it. So we had Natalie quit from the
Okay.
Department of Health.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Do you recall what the committee vote was and the floor vote?
So I report on the floor today, and the committee vote was
Oh.
8-0-0. So this is excellent practice.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
what about E.B. Fleury out? She was okay with the bill.
Yeah, she was the one who was advocating for all of the stringent requirements on chain of custody and the vaccinations to make sure that there is absolute clarity and uniformity in the language in the bill so that there's no questioning on the part of the farmer about what they need to do.
And what about the Vermont Veterinarians Association? Were they in on the bill as well to testify?
They were in on the bill as well. And really what they provided was clarity of information surrounding whether or not there had been any active cases of tuberculosis or brucellosis in the state of Vermont. And we have eradicated it for the past 2 decades. So.
Yeah, Chris?
So are these, if you were a raw milk producer today and you don't want to take advantage of some of the changes here, does this bill effectively make the current structure more stringent in terms, you talked about vaccinations and some of those things. Is that also going to apply to the people that are operating already?
It won't. It's only if they decide to sell at a farm stand or CSA. So anything that's already existing in the current statute remains as is. And equally, that would only be for tier 2 producers. So those who are operating under the tier 1 get to continue on as they were.
Great.
And does this include goat milk as well as dairy milk?
It includes both goat and dairy.
Yep. Any other questions from committee members? If not, thank you, Heather, and good luck on the floor with it. Wish you well.
I'll need it. Thank you.
Yep. So we have what we got next? 420, I guess. John, are you still with us? And I think you know everyone, I believe, John. And you're going to be doing the 430, 420.
420. And
Yeah,
Vicky,
you
Vicky
and
was,
Vicky both are reporting that.
that's
right?
right.
Yeah.
So many sections. Vicky kicked it off.
Yeah. Well, good morning to both of you, and we're all set to roll.
Good morning. Nice to see you all. And Chris, we just saw you yesterday. So nice to see you again. So as John said on the floor, I'm the tractor and he's the applicator following along behind me. I do the first 6 sections of the bill, and they're pretty straightforward and simple. Housekeeping bills, as you know, the agency comes in and said, we need to clean up this a little or make this clearer. Or repeal a sunset. So that's what this is about. And I'm sure you know all the topics that it revolves around. But section 1 is just taking away the sunset on the on-farm slaughter legislation we've done over the past few years. And the agency felt that statutes work well, that things are working well out there on the farms. So they are removing the sunset. Does that all ring a bell to you folks?
So that just maintains where we're at indefinitely? Yes. Great.
Yes, it does not change anything about how many animals per year, etc. It's just taking the sunset away for good. So that's section 1. And section 2 has to do with livestock dealers. there's been a little confusion over time about when a farmer wants to go purchase some animals at a commission sales, and he's bringing them back to the farm. Some folks seem to take advantage of that and are dealing more than they are just keeping the livestock on the farm. So this is basically saying, here's what a livestock dealer is. Here's what the farmer is. And if you are in fact a livestock dealer, we want you to be registered and paying the $175, et cetera. So it's clarifying the definition of livestock dealer so that the agency can have a little more clarity in determining who's buying just for the farm or who's buying to resell stock. So that's sections actually 2 and 3.
Yep.
Is that clear so far?
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Section 4 has to do with the Vermont Veterinarian Loan Repayment Fund. Do you remember we passed that a few years ago to help bring in veterinarians or keep them here who have gone to UVM or other schools basically, and we want them to practice in Vermont. So we have had a shortage of the large animal vet, but this is now clarifying we want large animal vets to be focused on food animal practice, so to get their loans repaid. And the reason for that is there is still more of a shortage of the vets who will treat cows and sheep, pigs, bees, actually. This includes bees, goats. So this is just basically saying we want that veterinarian to be putting in at least half of their time on food animal veterinary practice in order to get those loans repaid. So in other words, they're not doing equine work for the most part, or small animal vet stuff like, dogs and cats. It's really about attracting the vets who will be on the farms and treating what we call food animal husbandry or that kind of thing. Okay? Does that make sense?
Well, before, the present law is for large animal vets. And, and that's what we were having trouble attracting. But go ahead, Vicki.
Okay, you're exactly right, Senator. And this is just really clarifying. We really want them to be focusing on food animal situations on farms. And they still can do equine work and other things, but we want them to do 50% or so. There's a percentage. And let's see, our head vet, what's her name? I just went out of my head.
Kristen Haas.
Dr. Haas.
Thank you. John knows all these names. He's amazing. She testified on this and made it very clear. So when she comes in, she'll help clarify for you as well. But why the agency is thinking we need to change the word from large animal vet to food animal in the actual name of the loan repayment plan. Okay?
So did you leave large animal in there? So it says large animal plus or large animal and food animal?
No. It's just, let's see, the whole new name now. It's a mouthful. Food Animal Veterinarian Education Loan Repayment Program. Don't come up with an acronym for that, please.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Okay, all right. That was section 4. And section 5, the agency wants to clarify, that we also regulate weighing and measuring devices, the Agency of Ag. And there's a little confusion about which type of scales we're regulating. So they want to make it clear that we're not regulating the measuring devices and weighing devices that people are using to make their jam, or even Cabot is packaging their cheese. We want those businesses, in other words, their weighing devices, they take care of that. But we are regulating the types of measuring systems that are in things like grocery stores and delis. So we wanted to be sure that that is clear in statute. And also we do not regulate, making it clear, pharmacy devices that are measuring medications and such, or the US postal system scales. So that's section 5. Just clarifying which devices we really are regulating. And maple syrup, we don't regulate that.
So that's, well, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay. And we had, let's see, Mr. Paquette came in and testified on that. I'm sure you know who he is. Let's see. So section 6 is the payment for ecosystem services and soil health working group. Remember, we created that group to bring report to the legislature about how to help farmers who are doing regenerative farming and helping the soils and such, help them find a way maybe to be reimbursed or find some sort of monetary help or just maybe getting paid for that. So we wanted this group to do the research and have the discussions and come back with recommendations. And as we put that in statute, COVID hit and the group was not able to meet regularly like they had planned. So the whole idea of this little section is basically to say we extend their authority to continue to meet until February 1st of 2023 to come up with their plan. And there's no appropriation involved with this. Everything will continue to be paid for, any reimbursements and stuff for mileage, that kind of thing. It's all covered already.
Yeah. Well, we've got a little surprise coming your way on that.
Okay. I'll look forward to that.
We dealt with an ecosystems bill, the committee did, and we put $250,000 in for the working group to move forward, as well as if they get to the point, there'd be some seed money to start paying out for awards. And so, we'll probably reiterate that in your bill somehow, but
Okay.
you're gonna have to stay on top of your approach committee to make sure they keep that money in the bill, because we did that. We recommended it to our appropriations committee, and we voted the bill out of approach yesterday with that in the bill. So I would expect it'll pass and come over to you folks. It's in the mini early appropriations bill.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. So we're basically on the same page. You just didn't want to go upstairs and get the money, right?
That's right. No more money.
Well, anyways, thanks, Vicky. Any questions on Vicky's portion of the bills from any of the members? No? Well, so I guess John will give you 6 through or 7 through something.
7 through midnight. Yeah. 7 through 12, I think is right, counting the effective dates. Thank you, Bobby. For the record, Representative John O'Brien from House Ag, and thank you, Vicky, for a great first half. We'll keep it going here. Section 7 is all about custom applicators of manure and agricultural waste. And what's changed here? I mean, most of these, as you guys know, are all technical conforming sections. And in this case, Kerry Jaguar for years has wanted to change nutrients to ag waste. And so because nutrients, it's confusing, whereas custom applicators who are essentially commercial manure spreaders, for farmers, they will spread manure or anything in the manure pit or lagoon. And so you normally wouldn't have, say, fertilizers in your lagoon. And so that nutrient could be confused with fertilizers. So now it's manure or agricultural waste, which is already defined in the RAPs. And the thing for your committee to get your heads around is ag waste is a pretty broad category. It pretty much, everything from whey to heavy metals to waste oils, that's all in there. So it's a much smaller category than that you're allowed to spread, right? You're not going to put used motor oil or pesticides in your manure lagoon. So the farmers and custom applicators still have to follow whatever the agency says is in your nutrient management plan. So it's just essentially good stuff that they're putting on the fields, not the whole ag waste category. So it just changes that. So no more nutrients. That's a whole separate category. Carrie said that fertilizers doesn't need to people who spread fertilizers don't need certification. Whereas if you spread manure, you do have to follow the RAPs on that.
So, John, before you move on, as long as it's fresh in our mind, would this language take care of the issue that has gone on, say, over in Maine, where they took waste from municipalities, put it on their fields, and now it showed up in milk production? Is the purpose of this language to deal with issues like that?
Right. Well, that came up, Bobby, as a question on the floor. Was two questions came up. One was whether whey was able to be spread, which it is, but you need, I think, both the Agency of Agriculture and Cabot's Whey. You need an A&R permit, and the same goes for sludge too. That there have been cases where farmers and custom applicators have gotten permission, but it's all through natural resources. So I think the Agency of Agriculture doesn't like sludge being spread, which we agree with, from municipal plants. And so I think they're pushing back and saying, let's limit this, or completely do away with it.
Yep. Thanks, John.
So section 8 is one of those great sections where somebody noticed an incorrect cross-reference, so it just changes an A to a B. Section 9 is about agricultural information, where the agency's adding the word database essentially to what can be collected with a information request. So right now, I think Mike O'Grady wrote that in current law, the AAFM collects from businesses and farms information that is public, except that identifying information of the business or farm shall not be disclosed. So they do surveys, they do questionnaires, they create databases at the agency. And this just adds that word databases as part of that information gathering. And it continues on the practice that specific personal information cannot be shared with the public. So it really doesn't change anything, but just adds the word databases, just to bring us up to speed. Section 10 on hemp, you guys are pretty familiar with hemp, and I'm sure Carrie's been in a bunch, but this, once again, it codifies, I think we both passed a continuation of that 2014 hemp pilot project that was in the Farm Bill, because the 2018 one is very restrictive and would pretty much shut down our hemp program. So this continues that on. So we're following the federal pilot program right now, but in state law, we're actually sort of running on or we haven't codified it in state law right now, and the whole program is going to end by the end of the year. So there's
It's an extension.
there's certainly concern that if there isn't some change at the federal level, where our hemp program is going to be in a heap of mess. Because I think something like 70% of our hemp growers would be considered felons at that point, just because there's this crazy arbitrary low THC limit. And the further north you go, the more just naturally THC you get in your hemp. So, but it's so de minimis that it's really nobody would grow hemp for its THC, especially nowadays with so much THC being legalized around the country. THC cannabis.
John, is that why Canadians are so pleasant?
Oh, yeah.
The further north you go.
It's all I have to do is go a mile and I can get some good stuff.
There you go.
But I can't cross the border.
You go down to Albany. So that's that. It just continues on the pilot program, and we tried to stay away from getting too much into the weeds on decarboxylation and everything else about hemp, all those percentages, because it gets pretty complicated. Section 11 is all about the annex, so it's about emergency planning and food security, and probably you'll have Ellen Kaler in to talk about this, but it was I didn't know, and I don't think our committee knew much about what's called an annex. Like every agency has them, and they're the little section of an agency that deals with emergencies and very practical emergency planning. So I think in the case of a pandemic or Irene or mad cow outbreak, something like that, the agency has very practical plans on, say, how to get animal food to our farms, or if there's a mad cow outbreak, even to isolate Lamoille County. It's stuff like that. So Ellen and her team said, hey, what about being a little more aspirational here and thinking about regional food security, so that if we coming in from the emergency side, can we do things to help cultivate and grow our agriculture, food, and markets here in the Northeast, in New England, in Vermont. So it makes total sense. Say, like, take the example of slaughterhouses. When things were getting shut down during the first couple months of COVID there, if we had, a dozen more slaughterhouses in Vermont or in northern New England, we would have been in a lot better shape. Just so it's thinking about cutting down that distance between the farms and the processing and the distribution and the ultimate customers in Vermont. So it makes sense. And I think, the great thing is you could potentially access like FEMA or emergency federal dollars here, because it's all about emergency planning. So we like that. It's just, there's a report that's due looking into this. So that's pretty much it. The section 12 is effective dates. Hemp shall take effect on passage, everything else July 1st. And the committee vote was 8-0-0.
Thank you, John. Are there questions from the committee in regards to any of John's reporting? They're letting you off for easy, John.
For now, right? We'll see when you guys add a few baubles to this, what it's like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess we're all set. So thanks a lot, John, and we'll move forward. Terry, we have Terry's here. He's going to be reporting. Which one have you got, Terry? You?
Actually, I think Rodney's first, Chair.
Rod? Oh, yeah. Yes, Rodney is next. 421, Rodney?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, good to see you, Rodney.
Yeah, same to you. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. You all dressed up in green?
Yep. Can't see me, right?
Well,
Green there.
yeah, see O'Brien is.
Right. Ah. All right. So H421 defines who can instigate a animal cruelty investigation. And its current law, town health officer that's appointed by the state by default becomes the ex officio of the town health board, and then by default of that becomes humane officer with no oversight of the legislative body. And there's increase in cases of health officer using that power to start an investigation on somebody just as a personal vendetta. And there's no legislative body has no control other than going through the process of removing the health officer. So this bill is to define who has the authority to start an investigation. And it goes on to saying that any officer of that operates under the state's attorney's office or humane officers, humane society that have taken the proper training, or your ACO that's appointed or hired by a municipality if they have taken the training to understand what different type of animals look like when they, get a call that that horse is out there in the field in the wintertime, and they be able to be trained so that they can tell, no, the horse is fine, or no, the horse is in trouble. There will be a special training that they will have to take for that. And if you, be authorized to the municipal government, whether it's a select board or city council or something like that. And if it's your animal control officer, and you can decide if you think that person's able to take the training and do a good job or not. If either a humane society or an ACO leaves their job, then they do not have the authority to do the investigation some other place unless they get the approval from another city or town. And that's pretty much it. There's the training course it will be approved by the Animal Cruelty Investigation Advisory Board and administered by the Criminal Justice Training Council. And currently there's a requirement that well, it's not current, but this is a replica of the bill we did last year that made it through the House, but got caught up in COVID in the Senate and didn't get through there. So we're redoing it and made a couple of changes. And then there'll be a report, and I think that's got to be done. The training's got to be done by the end of 2023. And then there will be a report list of individuals who have completed the training by January 1, 2024. So if you don't have an ACO, you don't have a Humane Society, or don't have anybody that wants to take this on, there will be a list that you can look up on and find somebody that's close by that's had the training. And then the bill would take effect July 1, 2021.
Yep. How was your vote, Rodney?
800.
Was Carolyn got some special medicine she gives you guys? All your votes are 800.
Well, we hash everything out.
No, that's good. That's very important that, everybody supporting the bill. That's what it shows.
Yeah.
So, no, that's good.
And it passed out of the House unanimous too.
Yeah, yeah. Any questions from the members? If not, thanks a lot, Rodney, and we'll probably be talking with you off and on as we move forward with the proposal.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me
Yeah.
know.
So Terry, did you have a question, Brian, or?
No, I was just saying goodbye to Rodney.
Yeah.
All right.
Or were you waving Terry off?
No.
Good morning, Terry. Good to have you with us. And you're going to be reporting on the pesticide council changes or recommendations.
Yes, Senator, thanks for having me here. I always enjoy speaking with the senators, especially you, Bobby.
Yeah, well, I thought we should initiate Henry, but we didn't. We used him good.
Yeah, I figured
We'll
you
get
might.
him the next time. We'll get him.
I was going to warn him, but then I said, well, he's a big boy. He can handle you. So I'll be reporting actually tomorrow on this bill. It's a committee bill. Right now it's H 434. It's an act relating to establishing the Agricultural Innovation Board. Back in Madeline Cunan's administration, somewhere around 1969, 1970, as far as the records I could find, they formed the Vermont Pesticide Advisory Council. I'll call it VPAC. And that's part of the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. The reason they formed it was to provide guidance and expertise on the use of pest controls in the state, and duties and focus are narrowly tailored to address pesticide issues. The VPAC's membership is also focused on pesticide use in the state, with representatives of 7 agencies that use or regulate pesticides and 5 public members with pesticide or public health expertise. Let's see. It says, however, more and more issues of innovative agriculture recently have arisen, including regenerative agriculture, microcropping, hemp cultivation, water quality, and climate change measures. The Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, they need a forum to address these innovative agriculture by persons who are actually engaged in farming. H 434 converts VPAC into the Agricultural Innovation Board to provide a forum and experts to address the many new and exciting issues arising in agriculture today. The new Innovation Board, it's going to retain the VPAC's authority and duties over pest control. So I just want to make that very clear that we're not giving pesticides as free rein in Vermont. We're still right on top of regulating them, same as we always have been. In section 1, it changes, it amends the subchapter in Title 6 to related to regenerative farming by renaming the subchapter as the Regenerative Farming and Innovative Agriculture subchapter. And it creates the Agricultural Innovative Board. The board shall have the following duties: review and make recommendations for prioritizing and implementing the recommendations of the Soil Health and Payment for Ecosystem Services Working Group, the Vermont Climate Council, and other relevant recommendations. Recommend practices that reduce the use of and exposure to pesticides and synthetic fertilizers in order to protect the soil biology, human health, and environmental health. And advise the executive branch and the General Assembly with respect to legislation concerning the use of agricultural pest control measures and integrated pest management. And one of their duties is to recommend to the Secretary of Agriculture policies, propose rules, or legislation for regulation of treated articles. I think you probably all know the definition of treated articles, but it's in here. And recommend practices to reduce the use and generation of waste associated with plastic in farming, incentivize farming practices to reduce the use and dependence on pesticides in their practices, advise the agency with regard to the regulation of biostimulants, explore developing standards for a Vermont agricultural marketing program that sets standards for carbon capture, plastics use, and organic product selection. Section 6, the Agricultural Innovation Board shall be made up of 14 members who have expertise on agricultural issues. One is the Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets, or the designee. 2, a member of the farming community who practices organic agriculture. A member of the University of Vermont Center for Sustainable Agriculture. The director of the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets Agrochemical Program or designee. The director of the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets Water Quality Program or the designee. The Commissioner of Health or the designee. The Secretary of Natural Resources or the designee. A soil biologist or certified crop consultant. A member of the public representing the dairy industry in Vermont, a member of the public representing fruit and vegetable production in Vermont, and a member of the public representing grass-based non-dairy livestock farming in Vermont, and a member of the public knowledgeable in agricultural water management, and a representative from an organization involved in land conservation, and a representative from an environmental advocacy organization. The Secretary of Agriculture shall convene the board, appoint members, and designate a chair. Board members shall be appointed for 3 terms, except the initial appointments shall be staggered, so they're not all getting done at once. Board members other than the ex facto members shall receive per diems and expenses. And these payments we decided would come out of the Pesticide Monitoring Revolving Fund, which actually has a fair amount of money in it. And we did the calculations for 4 meetings a year for each. There's 8. I believe there were 8 people that would be getting compensation. So that was like $1,008 a meeting. So that's $4,032 a year, which is pretty small change. I think I heard in appropriations yesterday that this fund has maybe 1.9 million in it or something. So, because they charge for every time a pesticide is registered or somebody applies for the permit, there's a charge of anywhere from $25 to $250. So they have a fair amount of money in there. And let's see. The board shall issue an annual report to the General Assembly recommending policy solutions to assist farmers in reducing the use of and exposure to chemicals or pesticides and the use of innovative or alternative practices. Propose an annual budget that provides ideas for funding sources for any new programs, and survey farmers from every county to understand the current agricultural landscape and current challenges for farmers in order to better inform recommendations in the annual report. And some of the repeals in section 2, they take effect on January 1st of 2022. They make in section 3, 6 VSA 1083, the Agricultural Innovation Board would assume the VPAC's authority for providing advice to the Secretary of Agriculture regarding mosquito control. That was one of the concerns from the rep from Pittsford, that we might lose that, but that moves right along. Section 4, the board would assume the duties of VPAC in providing advice to the Secretary of Agriculture regarding regulations of pesticides. Section 5, they would assume VPAC's duties or recommending rules regarding the regulations of pesticide. In section 6, duties regarding recommending treated articles for regulation by the state. We decided that we shouldn't end VPAC before they wanted to have another meeting. They have a meeting in April and another one in November. They felt that to continue through to November, even though the agency is giving permission to start forming the board of the innovative board in July, so they can get these people up to speed, and so there's no lapse in regulation of the pesticides. So the effective date would take effect on January 1st of 2022. So, and we heard from a number of people. The policy director for public health and agricultural resources management of the agency of ag, the deputy chief counsel, office of legislative counsel, agrochemical section chief from the agency of ag, the Lake Champlain committee, policy director for NOFA, the highway division hazardous materials unit manager for VTRAN, and secretary of agriculture, or secretary of the agency of natural resources, and general counsel, because we're eliminating a couple of the agencies, the agency of transportation out of the new group, and we felt that the agency of natural resources would cover that by eliminating those other two. But so they're still going to be represented.
Well, is that it, Terry?
I think so. I think it's it's a doable thing. There's just, so much new things happening in agriculture and with farming, and I mean, the whole regenerative ag and going more organic, that they felt that they had to do a more holistic approach toward pesticides, to look at the whole picture and not just permits and, giving people permission to use this or that or the other thing. So.
Any questions, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, just to let you know, I have to be leaving in a couple minutes to go back to Senate Natural to introduce a bill. But I did want to ask Terry, was there any negative testimony about this? And what was the committee vote another 8-0-0 vote?
There were the only negative parts that we heard were that there's a couple people thought that we should put this off until, say, next year. But we felt that because there's these other whole lots of other like the ecosystem services group. There's like 4 different groups that are working on giving, representing these different things, and they're supposed to give reports and everything. But So they thought, well, possibly we could just wait, but we felt that being proactive and getting this going would serve the farmers and agriculture in general. And it's, you know, it still has a hand on all the pesticide use in Vermont, and that part doesn't change. So we just thought that, you know, just to be proactive, and I won't say like Vermont likes to be first and everything, but you know, to be to get this going before necessarily need it.
And the committee vote was,
800.
blow me down. Okay.
We're always 800.
Uh-huh. Well, we're pretty much usually 500, and probably for the same reason as you, we keep working on issues until we can all agree, and that's the best way to deal with these issues. Any other questions for Terry? No? Well, I guess we want to thank you, Terry, for good job, and we'll be dealing with your bill along with the others as time moves on. It sounds like yours took quite a little bit of time. It's more involved with a lot of different folks, so you know, we'll probably get started on that fairly soon.
Yeah, well, thank you. That was good practice, because I have to present tomorrow afternoon on the floor. So I'm a little not used to doing this. My first one this year. So
well, it went well, so you should be fine. So any other questions from anyone? If not, thanks again, Terry, and thank all your committee members for being present this morning, and we'll be in touch.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Brian, you've got to leave.
Well, the committee assistant's gonna let me know when they're ready for me, so I'll stay here until then.
Well, we're scheduled to take a little break right now because we have that joint meeting with House Ag Committee at 10:30.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about in the joint hearing? Do you know?
It's a presentation by Rural Vermont and NOFA. It's the first time you've heard from the Rural Vermont Farmer Group as a group.
Yeah, and Linda, do we have a different number to call in on to get to that?
No, I'm going to take this one offline when you take a break, and we'll go back on in the same invitation number at 10:30.
Okay, so the House will call in on our number then.
And Senator Starr, you're moderating the meeting this week.
Well, it's good to know that. Well, I guess we're all set. Anthony, how did you make out?
Who knows? It's hard to say with those folks. You know, it was about raising money. It was about asking wealthy people to pay a little bit more for climate stuff. And they're looking at putting together an array of funding ideas, I think. So, I mean, they didn't totally discount it out of hand, but, you know, I'll believe it when I see it.
Who needs money? I mean, who are they trying to raise money for?
Well, it's stuff like weatherization and, you know, renewable energy and that kind of stuff.
They can't spend what they're
Electric
getting
vehicles.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they'll end up raising taxes on lower income people probably.
Well, I mean, they've gotten millions and millions and millions. I mean, I don't know why they would be talking about raising more money. You know, with all this federal money, I mean, we're going to have a hard time spending that. We're going to have to work 20 hours a day to spend that.
We'll find a way to spend it.
Well, by golly, you start spending $1 billion and you want to have some big ticket items to get through it.
Really.
Do we have any sense of whether or not they're doing an amendment on our compost soil amendment?
Well, that's
Well,
what
it didn't come
thought-
up, but on their schedule, I think it says that tomorrow they're voting on an amendment. It doesn't say what it is. It just says committee discussion and vote on amendment. That's all I noticed.
So nothing's come forward.
No.
I heard it
Not
had to do with like zoning or something. I don't know.
On our bill,
Yeah, I think because there's something in our bill about a small farm that's 4 acres and has a certain number of chickens and stuff. I have a feeling it had something to do with that, which is along the idea of like local zoning and no nuisances and that kind of stuff.
well,
We'll find out.
yeah,
But
well,
what it probably is something that we already been doing for years. They're going to want to change it, like it's just like they want to just muck around with it.
just to change it.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Just
guys
so they
want
can
to
say they've done their work.
if you want to take a little break, let's take it and what time are we on the floor at early today?
12:30.
Yeah, so we'll have to get done by noon to make 12:30 on the floor. So anyways,